Hi, good evening everyone to another session of Alumni Connect of IIT Bangalore. I'm Tejas Kotha, currently a fifth year student of the IM Tech course, and I'll be the moderator. I'll be the moderator for today's event. So today we have uh, two very engaging panelists with us. Anaga, the alumna of IIT Bangalore, the fourth batch, is a professional storyteller and a certified yoga instructor for the past 6.5 years, and gets children and the kids at heart hooked onto her stories. Having worked in the IT industry for 10 years, she shifted her tracks when her calling of life came to light. Trained from Kathalaya and 1,000 Yoga, her unique style is a blend of storytelling with her love for yoga. Welcome, Anaga. Next, we have Tarini Chandrasekhar, an alumna of 2018 MTech batch, an ex-data scientist who, after a year and a half into her job, realized her calling into storytelling, poetry, and comedy. She founded Alak Niranjan as a platform for kids to learn through stories and narratives. Her method involves a dramatic narration along with interactive play that engages kids visually, orally, and kinesthetically. She is a self-taught storyteller and conducts online storytelling sessions and poetry workshops for kids. Welcome, Tarini. Uh, so, anyone who has any questions could use the Q&A session and Q&A section, and we'll use that. We'll ask those questions towards the end of the session. So before we give the stage to you guys, I just wanted to ask a few questions which I made for you, and just to get a little bit perspective of both of you, and then you can have some time for your stage performance, followed by the Q&A from the audience. So yeah, one very important question to me is, I'm a photographer and I struggle with genres, in a sense, what genre to click, or do I belong to a particular genre? Does that ever happen to you, coming from a performing arts background? So Anaga, you could take the lead.
Yeah. So yes, genres. It is kind of like whatever you said, Tejas. It is it really is very difficult to choose. So sometimes it makes it very easy because the audience themselves or the people who organize the shows, they're very clear. This is, we want mythology, we want folk tales, we want that, we want this. So that makes my life very easy. But in case it's an open forum where I have to choose the genre, I usually go based on the audience that I have. If it is kids, it's usually folk tales, and also it is based on the time of the year, or based on where I'm telling the story. So even if it is for the kids or for the adults, in case the storytelling is going to happen in their school, the kind of genres that I would choose would be different. So if it is in schools, it would be probably more based on value based, or how they can take whatever from the stories to make their life in school better, or how they can become a better student or a better person as well. And also the age matters quite a bit in choosing the genres. That's pretty much it. So, and I experiment with all the genres, be it mythology, folk tales, Indian authors, authors from everywhere. And I also have tried to shrink big novels into like 1 hour storytelling. So I've actually done a storytelling of the whole of Mahabharata for 3 to 6 year olds for 1 whole hour, and I was wondering what's going to happen, but they just sat through for 1 hour. So it's beautiful when you can experiment with all kinds of genres, and it's nice that you intertwine the genres also based on your audience, and pull in and plug in and bring story into story. So that's also interesting. Yeah.
Right. And what about you, Tarini?
First of all, great question, Tejas. I think as a person, I'll answer this in two perspectives. First perspective, as a person, you're not a one genre person. You know, like you yourself, you have stayed in Gurgaon, you've stayed in Noida, you've stayed in Hyderabad, you speak Telugu, you speak Hindi. So similarly for me, uh, I am a South Indian who was born in Kanpur, so I've learned Bharatnatyam, and then I write in Hindi, I speak in Hindi, and then I also speak in English. So sometimes it does depend on the audience. When it's kids, or when it's kids of certain age, you want certain stories that influenced you while you were growing up, you want to bring it to them. So that sometimes chooses your genre. Sometimes like Anaga said, sometimes the genre is not fixed, but you want to experiment with mixing, like mixing and matching the genre sometimes. So you do that. And what we think is very, different about us as a person might actually be a great insight for the person in front of us. So, for you, if your passion is photography, sometimes what your perspective is, or your original background brings a perspective that somebody else might have never seen or might be wanting to seeing. So what you're bringing to the table actually decides the genres a lot of times.
So just a follow up to that is, so I sometimes feel this, I don't know if I would call it an imposter syndrome, but there is a jack of all trades, but master of none is always there. So, there is at least towards the mid or towards the end of the career, you might want to, at least for me, I might want to take up some particular genre of photography and, master that. Is that something which happens with you as well?
Anaka, you want to take this?
Go ahead, I'll add on.
I think I decided early on, as in, first of all, you try to specify a lot of things, and you try to be as specific as you want in certain genres. And then you kind of over time realize, this has happened with you as well. Over time, I realized I want to be a specific generalist, if that's a term. Okay. Because, there are so many things, you want to have the breadth of something, you want to have the depth of something. So I think that goes from person to person. I, as a person, it's okay with me if I'm not a master of none. That's totally fine with me. That's, if it is okay with you, you can be jack of all trades. That there's no such thing as, is this better or is this better? Whatever works for you as a person should be the one you should go with.
I totally agree with Tarini, because you talked about at the end of the career or whatever, right? So when I started off IT, who knew I would just quit IT and do something like that? At least Tarini decided maybe 1 or 2 years into it, and mine was 10 years. So, and I didn't even know that this is going to be my profession. I don't know whether I'm going to continue this lifelong. So we never know. I am a person who goes with the flow. So whenever I'm given the opportunity, why not explore everything? And why then later regret that, oh Lord, I didn't explore that when I could. So like what Tarini said, I feel exploring everything is what makes you choose, maybe if you like something, and go deep into it. Otherwise, it's okay to be superficial and touch everything and have a feel of everything and be happy. So
sometimes, we learn game theory that, explore or exploit. So sometimes it's the opportunity to stay where you are and exploit it, and sometimes it's an opportunity to explore and, take a step forward and go somewhere else. And, explore the unknown. So there is never too late for anything, or there's no one right strategy that, oh my god, he's jack of all trades, what a faker. No, everybody faces imposter syndrome, no matter what they're doing in every phase of their life. I cannot be I cannot tell you in a better way that, no matter what you're going to do, the more you're going to know, the more you're going to be insecure that the less you know. So
So yeah, I mean that's true. So that gives a nice segue to my next question, that being, we all are or were technologists at some point, and how we looked at the zeros and ones is very different from how you tell stories, or how you put out poetry. So how did this transition happen, and what were those challenges which you faced?
wow. Okay. So well, I think 4 or 5 years into the IT industry, I knew that is not where I want to be, but I had no clue what to do. So that's when I think there was also this phase after 4 or 5 years of IT industry, where the IT industry kind of feeds you, literal feeding of food. So I was at my maximum weight, and then that's when I started exploring different, all kinds of fitness routines and everything. And I think I just decided that, okay, I think fitness industry is what I have to be in. And I had no clue what to do there and then. And but then I decided that's what it is, and I started preparing for a lot of certifications there, and then anatomy and physiology of the body, everything, everything happened. And then I got married, and it so happened that I had to take a break because I lost my baby. And when I lost my baby and I took a break and I didn't know what to do, it was like I just opened the paper and they said, there's a storytelling workshop. And I wanted a break from just being at home because I was on my maternity leave. So I said, okay, let me just go and attend this. And I love stories, I love talking. So I went and attended this, and I was like, this is what I want to do. This is amazing because I connect with kids. I love kids and I love to meet people. I love to talk. And what better way than just connecting stories and just connecting with people? So I just started the journey, and then somewhere my fitness, that junkie also came into being, and I'm kind of trying to juggle both together. Yeah, and the journey is going on. It's for the last 6.5 years, and it's been a beautiful journey where I'm learning each day. And rightly, what Tarini said, that insecurity feeling is there right from day one when I quit my IT industry till today. And when people say, wow, I'm like, where? So, yeah, so that's there. But then, well, deep inside, there is that satisfaction that, yes, I am doing what I want to do, at least for this moment of the life. And it's a beautiful journey which is going on. So it took a lot to take the plunge of quitting the IT industry, but it's beautiful.
Yeah, Tarni beat that.
Okay, first of all, this is not like WWE. Okay? Each other. Okay, first of all, it was really nice to hear that, Anaga. And I mean, I'm pretty sure that Anaga has, more of a struggle to tell about because, she has 6.5 odd years in this, in doing this. I've barely it's like 1 year in, and in that, we have this amazing gift of lockdown that we got. Um, uh, First of all, I mean, sorry, can you repeat your question? I kind of got lost in.
Okay, so the transition from a technologist to a storyteller.
I think I'd be lying if I say that it's a very quick transition. I think I've always been a storyteller at heart, and there's something that happens that when you have this external image in front of people that you are an achiever, or like a left-brained person, like sort of doing things, and a chosen career path and good grades, and you get pushed towards a certain path, and whatever gifts or talents you might have had, they kind of kind of ebb below the surface. So I don't think it was a transition. It was just me realizing, oh, okay, I like this more, sort of. And I think when you say that zeros and ones as opposed to the grays of creatives, that's a very exact question that you have asked. The biggest and the best thing about technology is everything is known and fixed. Like if you write a code that is good and clean and you run it and there is no stupid segmentation fault, you know that you're right, okay, and like as in, the code is going to run. But with creatives, I think there is a good lot of a fear of the unknown, I guess. But for me, I think I'm the sort of person who thrives more from the unknown, and I think that is true for a lot of creatives. I'm pretty sure even Anuga would agree on this, that getting each day and realizing, oh, I have the liberty to design my day as I see fit. That's the difference between a technologist and a creative person, I guess. And when you willfully choose the second, I'm okay with the unknown, getting up each day not knowing and designing it as I go. When you make that decision, you're okay with it. And I think it's a good mix of both of those things, your left brain and your right brain. Your left brain is do, do, do. And your right brain is like, chill, decide, like as in, be in the here and the now. So I think even technologists do a fair bit of unknown and, deal with the unknown. but there is a lot of, I know this is what is supposed to be done. So when you are okay climbing from the known into the unknown, the transition takes place, I guess, and it's complete.
Right. So again, I mean, it's great that whatever questions I prepared are falling into it nicely. I just so because you both had a background in IT, so now after your 1.5 year of experience and Anaga's 6.5 years of experience, how does the grass look on the other side of things? Like there is the syndrome of are you missing out on something when you chose to do this? How do you deal with it? I mean, it happens on a daily basis, or I mean, every now and then you might have to reflect on.
Okay, so main thing when I chose to shift was the big fat package or the salary check that you will get at the end of the month, I mean, the start of the month, right? So that was something which was very, very, very luring for me to stick on to the IT, whether I like it or not. So what, I get money and let me stick on to it. And I think it just affected me for 2 months, very surprisingly to me, because I thought it's going to linger on for a very long time. And the money didn't matter. So, and like what Tarini said, the liberty to do what you want to do. There are days or weeks when I don't do anything, and it's beautiful. And if I was in the IT industry, I wouldn't have been able to do it. So, and it's okay not to have that money, but giving this freedom to myself to explore and know myself. And I think the biggest thing that what Tarini said is, this has allowed me to be in the present or with myself, and also go with the flow, not resist anything. Whereas in IT industry, if I was there, I had to fight with whatever my manager says or whatever is thrown at me, whether I like it or not. So that has been very beautiful. So I think that was the only challenge. The other challenges were, of course, my parents, who said, "Oh, you finished your triple IT, you've done your BTech, we've invested so much and all that." And then I think a certain of my friends, I think even in my batchmates, they were like, "Just take the plunge. I think you can do it, and just take the plunge." Um, Apart from that, I think it was my husband who really pushed me. It's like, you want to do it, you do it. It doesn't matter. So I think that that push from somebody helped me to take the decision to plunge, because for the 5 years of my last 5 years of my IT industry, I've been wanting to plunge. But every time I see that paycheck, I'm like, no, not this month, not this year. So somewhere that push from my husband, and then me being able to convince my parents, kind of really helped me do that. And it just, at least for me, what I can say is, money isn't everything. And when you say grass is greener on the other side, when people see that, oh wow, her shows are doing so well, there are so many people in the audience, everybody be like, okay, I've paid 150, she has 100 people here, imagine how much she must be earning. But you know what, we might have just one show like that for a month or maybe two. So
Yeah.
the money that we get is so meager, but the smile, the satisfaction, what we give it to our audience, is far way more than probably the paycheck that we can get. So, and that is more satisfying. So I think that way it's nice. And I've pushed aside the money, saying, if it has to come, it will come. Otherwise, I'm okay with this lifestyle kind of a thing. So yeah, Tarini.
I totally agree with Anaga on this. And first, was a very astute observation about, oh my God, the people do this mental calculation. Ki, oh my, so 150 mil raha hai, to acha, okay, oh my God, wow, amazing, sort of. Grass is greener on the other side. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that, wow, this is the most hunky-dory place to be on earth. There are moments of doubt, and first of all, let me just put out and because there are a lot of I'm seeing that both men and women here, being women, there is a certain advantage about striking out and being on your own. Nobody mentions this, but there is. Okay, men and boys certainly have this pressure of being the sole breadwinner. There are a lot of amazing families that I know that don't put that kind of pressure on their sons, but sometimes it's self-imposed, and sometimes family do expect their sons to be the sole breadwinners. So even if there is a creative streak inside, it sometimes get buried. And I mean, that is a tough decision in that case, that, you have to juggle earning money, paying rents, paying bills, and, pursuing your passion. In that case, it's a very tough job to do. It's like you have to take the plunge and not earn for a few years, and then, maybe depend on your parents or, your family money, if there is any. So yes, that is there. But in my case, I was hugely lucky, first of all, because of my gender, and because there is no society imposed pressure on me. I am not in a marriage or have kids who I need to support right now. I am independent. So whatever I earn goes to me, or whatever I spend is from me. And my parents were superbly supportive, I guess. I think they were just I am in one of those families where my parents were probably just waiting for me to snap one day and just say, no, I don't want to do this, and just, ride off into the sunset and just go somewhere else. But thankfully I didn't run away anywhere, and just told them, you know what, I think I maybe need to give this a shot. They were superbly supportive. And I did have a fair bit of savings with me, because I don't know, somewhere in the pit of my stomach, I knew I was going to do something crazy like this. So I did save for a rainy day. And I would never regret going to Triple IT Bangalore. A lot of people ask me this, and yes, it was difficult for a 2-3 months. I was thinking that my parents have invested this money in me, and I've studied and I've actually enjoyed. I got decent grades, and what was all that for? And you ask that question to yourself. And I would not take any of my education back. I would not take any of it back, because it brings me the insight that I have now. You meet a lot of people, you get a lot of insights from them. I met Tejas, I met a lot of amazing friends that I know from Triple IT Bangalore. And even if, although my parents don't tell me that, why did you do this to us? And like, oh my God, so much investment in you, all down the drain. They don't tell me this, but even if they were to tell me this, I would not consider it, because I live in the here and now. There's no point regretting that what you did not do and what you did do. I met amazing professors. I got a lot of academic rigor from the college, which I use in whatever I do now. All that academic and research rigor would not have been with me had I not gone through Triple IT Bangalore. So there is no bad education. Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to add to whatever Tarini said regarding Triple IT, right? I think it is Triple IT which has given us the courage to be able to do what we want to do. Like what she said, the rigor of the deadlines, the assignments, and the research and everything that we had to do. I think it is because they pushed us to that level. I don't know. I think you all did your four-year course or 3-year course, and we did just 2-year course where it was half year of internship. So it was just 1.5 years. So in that 1.5 years, we kind of saw how your life is in the big bad world. Nothing is hunky-dory. Nothing is given to you in a platter. It's just thrown and you just sail through and swim through. So I think it is Triple IT which has given me this courage, and I totally, I'm thankful to my parents for putting me there, and also to all the professors for grinding us there nicely. So yeah.
So if I ever get into photography, then yeah, so my answer is already known. So yeah, so I have had 5 years of this and I still love it. So just one last question before I give away the stage to you guys is, see, for a lot of, I just wanted to know, when is it too late or too early? Sometimes we assume our hobbies to be, passions or breadwinners. And sometimes a lot of people do end up maybe making a choice very early. So, and sometimes a lot of people, so with you also, so you shifted after doing your MTech and working in the industry. So where do you draw the line between both the before and early and the later part of it?
Go ahead, Tarini. I'll join you.
I can see the answer on Anaga's face. I think it's pretty much going to be the same for both. Instead of saying it directly to you, I would refer you to this blog on Time and by this guy called Andrew Finn, waitbutwhy.com, Go to him.
I have seen.
We humans are terribly horrible at seeing time in perspective. We are here after 13.7 billion years after the Big Bang, and after we are dead, 4 billion years after us, the sun will be extinguished. There will be no earth, there will be no sun, there will be nothing else left in this galaxy. But your question is, when is it too late to
No, too early to. I mean, there are both to it. I mean, I've seen a lot of people making these choices of, say, even in the IT stream only. In first year or second year, we'll maybe choose a field which might not be the right fit for us.
I think I'll answer it in this way, that the right time to switch is when you feel that you're on that mental level where you still have the energy to, start from scratch in something. Because there comes a point, it hadn't come for me, it hadn't come for, thankfully, not for even Anaga, but there is a point where you reach after which you don't want to try so much to, fight the resistance to start from scratch in something. You lose that sense of fire, or this, I'll go get it sort of. So when you feel that extinguishing even a little bit, then I think that is the time you should take the plunge and decide, okay, where do I want to stand in the next 5 years. And the other thing is, where do I see myself in the next 5 years? Ask yourself that, can I do this for the next 10 years of my life, next 5 years of my life? If the answer is no, it's very painful answer, no, because then you know that you have to do something else about this situation. I know that it's a very hard answer. That's why I kind of, kept stalling asking this question myself. But yeah, when you know that you have the mental energy to start again, you should do it.
Well, what I would say is whatever she says is, I mean, I agree with her. One of the main reasons why we usually don't do the shift to this creative line, and like how she said, starting from the scratch, is money, right? At the end of the day, uh, come what may, I think our generation is blessed to see easy money. I wouldn't say very easy, but then yeah, it's huge package. It's really huge, and nobody wants to miss that, right? And they say right people at the right time is what matters and all that. But what's the point of having all of it? I know it's going to sound philosophical, but what's the point of having all of it at the end of the day if you're not going to have a smile and sleep, right? So just go with the flow, man. You don't have a house, you don't have a house, you don't have a car, you don't have a car. Your family will manage, your family will be there. And even the struggles that you go through without the money is going to be a happy thing. And you're going to be with your family, and that's what matters. So I would say, you want to plunge today, plunge. Don't delay. I took 5 years, and I didn't think, okay, why? But then I actually do. I'm a person who never thinks, and like what she says, thinking 5 years and all is like too much for me. I just go, okay, one month at a time. Okay, what should I do this month? And I'm a person who doesn't even think about the past. For me, it is all about the present. We are happy. That's it. So that's all is my mantra. So don't think too much. You want to do it. Doesn't work. Go back to IT, man. Simple. IT is always open for you. And once you're a technologist, you're always a technologist. So just go back. Take the plunge. Experiment. Doesn't work. Go back. That's it. At least you have the satisfaction you did what you want to do.
True.
Yeah.
So I think those were the questions from my side. I mean, we have some audience questions, but I'll leave the stage to both of you. You can, I mean, Anaga could start with her performance, then followed by Tarini. 10 minutes, or?
Yeah, I think, what's the time?
It's 4:35.
Okay. So we'll keep it at 10 to 12 minutes.
Yeah, sure.
I think we overshot the time that we planned, though.
I got the answers which I wanted.
Okay, cool then. Okay, chalo. Yep. Yeah. So let's begin. The brief, I mean, whenever we were talking for this session, no, so the brief that I got was just to use or tell a story to just let you all know what is the power of stories, right? So I chose this story, which is a Japanese folk tale, which is quite interesting, and I really loved it personally. So I usually tell or narrate stories which touch my heart, though I'm forced to tell stories which I don't like also sometimes. So this is a story which I really liked, and I'm sorry, this is not how I planned. I didn't want to tell the name of the country, but it so happened that I've told it off. So I'll tell you why I didn't want to tell the country later. So, like how all stories start, long ago, in a small village, there was this farmer who was very, very, very hardworking. He was extremely hardworking that he did nothing but farming. Get up early in the morning, go to his farm, tend his plants, and he had very good crop each year. And one day, as he was tending his farm, he heard a sound. And as he looked, he saw that a shoe was broken. He didn't bother to look anywhere else because that was not him, right? He was very focused. So he went there, mended the shoe with, you know what, a rag that he had, which he used to use to wipe his sweat. And that rag looked as if it was soaked in muddy water for 4 years. Imagine how that rag was. And he mended the shoe, and he took the shoe and looked around to see who it was. Looked, and that's it. He froze. And the only thing that moved was his eyelids. And he was speechless. On the other side was this beautiful damsel. She was so beautiful that he couldn't take his eyes off, and he couldn't even speak. And that woman also just stared at him. And it hardly took a minute or two for her to open her mouth and say, "Will you marry me?" Imagine the happiness this farmer had. He didn't say anything, and they just got married. And they lived happily ever after. That's the end of the story, isn't it? But where's the plot? Where's the twist? Is what you would ask. Well, it comes now. The farmer, who was a hard-working farmer, now hardly worked after marriage. He would get up in the morning, look at his wife, and say, "Oh, beautiful. You are so lovely. Oh, beautiful. You are so lovely," is all that he would say. She also tolerated it for a few weeks. And then she was like, "What are you doing? Just go and work." Say, "No, I can't leave you alone and go." And he would start, "Oh, beautiful." And she literally had to push him off and go. Took his sickle, went and saw the whole field was filled with weeds. He cut off some weeds, took his sickle, tuck, came back running. "Oh, beautiful. You are so..." Again, she had to push. Go, hit the ground once, come back and start singing. And this is all he did. And she said, "This has to stop. Otherwise, we're going to starve to death." She went and got an artist. Got a full-size portrait of hers painted right from head to toe. And one day morning, she woke up her husband, gave this to him and said, "Go, place this in the field and do not come home." This painting looks like you. I mean, life size, just full of life. "Now I won't come back," he said. And he went back, chose the right tree, put it up, and he would go, tuck. "Oh, beautiful." Tuck. And he completely became that hard-working farmer that he was. And the field was free of weeds and the crop started growing. And one day as he was working, whoosh! There was this storm which came. Mud everywhere. And he just opened his eyes and the portrait was gone. He could see it flying there and he ran behind it. And the storm was faster than him and carried the portrait far away that he couldn't reach it. He came back home devastated and said, "The portrait is gone." She said, "It's okay, just sit down." And they just lived their life. And you know what happened to the portrait? It flew and flew and flew and tuck, fell in a garden. The garden of the feudal lord of that kingdom. "Hey gods, look there. Something has fallen, just get me that," he said. The guards immediately went and got it and gave it to him. "Oh my God, look at her. She is not fit to stay anywhere else other than this castle. Come what may, in a day or two, I want this woman in my life, in my castle. Did you get that?" And immediately all the guards went everywhere searching, and they landed up in the farmer's house. They dragged her. She said, "No, I'm not coming. I need to be with my husband." They said, "Ha, you have no choice. Oh, lady, you just have to come." And as she was going, she just put 3 peach stones in her husband's hand and said, "My love, just bury them, take care of them, and come back when they give you fruits." And she went back tear-eyed. And as soon as she reached the castle, the feudal lord, Tonsamo, looked at her and said, "Oh, my beautiful, you are mine from today. You are so beautiful." As soon as she stepped into that castle, the smile just flew away from her face. He looked at her and said, "Smile, an everlasting smile. A smile can bring you near to me." And as soon as she heard that, that's how her face became. She just puffed her cheeks and squinted. And he continued and said, "You didn't like the singing? Shall I change the song?" And she squinted even more. "Oh, okay, fine." And he went away. And every day he would come back and say, "Please smile for me. I want to see that beautiful face of yours, just like the portrait. Do you want good food? Do you want a kimono? A red kimono? Tell me what you want, I should give you." And every day her face just became as distorted as she could. And back in the village, the farmer tended to those 3 seeds that she had given, and they grew up. And in 3 years, there were peaches there. He plucked all the peaches, put it into 2 baskets, took a stick, put it on his shoulder, and set out to the castle. Went as close to the castle as possible. And of course, he didn't have money to have good clothes, right? He was in a ragged kimono. And he went, "Peaches, peaches." And the guards just pushed him and said, "Don't come anywhere near the castle. Did you hear that?" He had no other choice because she had told that he has to come to the castle and sell peaches. So he went round and round around the castle singing, "Peaches, peaches. Do you want some peaches?" And faint sound fell on the woman's ears, and there was a smile. And the more she heard, "Peaches, peaches," the smile grew and grew and grew. And our Lord looked at her and said, "You are smiling. And why?" And he also heard, "Peaches." And from the smile, it became, and she started laughing. And he was like, "Oh, it's the peach seller who is making you smile. Guards, get him in immediately." And they got him. And she looked at her husband and started smiling. "There is your smile. Look at me and smile," the Lord said. "Oh, you like that song? I'll do it for you. I will sell peaches for you. Peaches, peaches. Do you want some peaches?" Where's the smile? "Oh, looks like I have to listen and learn from this man. Can you teach me? And he taught him. He said, peaches, peaches, do you want some peaches? Then the woman, for the first time in 3 years, spoke and said, I think you need to go and sell it outside. Why don't you take his kimono, wear the ragged one so that you feel like a peach seller. Go out and sell. And once you master it, come back to me and I shall be yours. Are you sure? Of course, my word once given is never changed, she said. He put on the baskets, put on the ragged ones, and he was like, it's smelly, but it's okay. And he went out selling peaches, peaches, do you want some peaches? And she immediately came down and said, Gods, beware. Look at that peach seller. He wanted to take me with him. Close the gates, never ever allow him again. Do you get that? God said, yes, madam, don't you worry. You be happy with my Lord. And she and her husband lived happily ever after in the castle. And what happened to the Lord who went out? Well, it's left to you all to decide his fate, his destiny, and complete his story. So that's the end of the Japanese folk tale that I wanted to share with you all. And why I did not want to tell it was a Japanese tale is, if you heard this story without me telling it was a Japanese story, and if I had asked you to guess which country it belonged to, you would have said India. It could have belonged to any country, isn't it? And that is what is the power of stories. And that is clearly what stories say, that we all are the same. We all have the same emotions. We all have very similar cultures across the world. If you look at the folk tales, they will tell you. Just that ritual-wise, we are different. And that's how it all binds us together. And I think stories is something that can bind the whole world together and make a place, a happy place to live in. So with that, I would probably leave the stage to Tarini. And thank you all so much for giving us this opportunity to share it with you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Anagha. That was great. I was glued the entire time to the screen. I had to revise my set a little bit, and now I was just like, okay, fine. Just I was just listening to it the entire time. Okay, so I am going to just so for today, I've decided that I'll do a small poem and then a sort of a comedy monologue. So the poem is more about breakups, right? I'm not sure how many people in the audience have a recent experience of it, but given the experience of the panelists or some of the panelists of this discussion, everybody has had an experience of breaking up. And let's just face it, there is no easy way to break up. And there's no good way of breaking up. You know, you're gonna either get dumped or dump somebody and break somebody's heart. But there is a middle ground here. Okay, it's a little bit risky, high risk but high reward. Okay, so this is a poem about that. It's called It's Not You, It's Me. If you could break up with someone in 5 words, this is what it could be. It's a tour de force. It's a coup de grace. It requires French to show you its power. Believe you me. If you've ever used it on someone, congratulations to thee, for it's the holy grail of breakup lines. It has no retort. You see, it's a clever little ruse to get ahead of the game and yet somehow be brief. Delightful to say when you're the dumper, sad to hear when you're the dumpy. A trick, a bamboozle to get rid of someone guilt-free. So what I'm going to reveal today is no mean feat. You'll not know when it hits you. So pay attention to me. When your insignificant other, when your insignificant other with a guilty face is going to let you see that they are sorry, they tried, and all that gibberish flowing free. You step up, and with the face down, you better blurt it out before they do. With your face down, you better blurt it out before they do. Babe, it's not you, it's me. So that's the end of the poem. Now the monologue that I'm going to go ahead with, I'll just set up a little context so that it's not totally unheard of for you guys. Basically, you know, it's about the struggle that we have between our left brain and our right brain, you know, our analytic side and our experiencing side. Everybody has that kind of a struggle, some more than the others. I have made that struggle, analogize that struggle in terms of languages, you know. So a little bit of this would be in Hindi. I'm sorry for people who don't understand it, but that's how the performance was. And it would take away from the originality of it. So I'm going to begin now. It's called Press 1 for English. हिंदी के लिए 2 दबाएं. रशियन डॉल्स के बारे में तो आपने सुना ही होगा. वो जो गुड़िया के अंदर गुड़िया होती है, या वो सस्ते टपरवेयर के डब्बों का कलेक्शन तो देखा ही होगा आपने. हमारी पर्सनालिटीज ना कुछ वैसी ही होती हैं. पता नहीं कब अंदर से एक और गुड़िया या एक और डब्बा निकल करके हमें बिल्कुल ही चौंका दे. एक तो ना ये अंग्रेज रंग बिरंगे से देश को पर्सनालिटी डिस्क्रिप्शन के नाम पे मात्र 2 शब्द देकर गए हैं. ये इंट्रोवर्ट, एक्सट्रोवर्ट, बस. अब आप ये बताइए, हम इंसान आज तक इन 2 बक्सों से बाहर किसी को देख ही नहीं पाते. जरा सोचिए, हम इंसान जो कि इमोशनल कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी का बेहिसाब पुलिंदा है, उसको एक शब्द पूरा पूरा कैसे डिफाइन कर सकता है. उदाहरण के तौर पर, यानी फॉर एग्जाम्पल, आपसे कुछ वाक्य बोलूंगी मैं. तुम खिड़की के पास बैठ करके बारिश को घूर रही थी, पर तुम तो एक्सट्रोवर्ट हो. अरे तुम तो चुपचाप सी रहती हो, गाली कैसे बक दी तुमने. तुम्हें एड शीरान के गाने पसंद हैं, पर तुम तो ठहरे परदेसी पर नाच रही थी. तुम क्लासिकल डांसर हो, पर तुम नागिन डांस कर रही थी. क्या ये अल्ट्रा स्पेसिफिक एग्जाम्पल्स मेरे निजी जीवन से हैं? शायद हाँ, शायद नहीं. आई कैन नीदर कंफर्म नॉट डिनाई. बट द पॉइंट इज कि आदमी या औरत, कुछ लोगों को एक से ज्यादा गाना, एक से ज्यादा खाना, एक से ज्यादा पर्सनैलिटी या भाषा की जरूरत पड़ती है. ऐसा करते हैं, फिलॉसफी की लीपापोती करने के बजाय सीधे किस्से पर आ जाते हैं, जो कि मेरे साथ साल भर पहले घटित हुआ. किस्सा क्या, कांड ही कह लीजिए. एक रविवार को, एक संडे को, वही रोज की शाम की चाय में पार्ले जी डुबा डुबा कर खा रहे थे. वही दोस्तों के साथ रोज वाली खिंचाई सिंगल लाइफ के बेपनाह दुखों का बंदरबाट हो रहा था कि एकाएक फोन बज उठा और देखा तो आदरणीय बॉस मुंह से अनायास ही निकल पड़ा, मतलब अपने आप, कि ओ तेरी, आज तो खटिया खड़ी होगी. काम धाम किया नहीं, टाल मटोल प्रोक्रेस्टिनेशन करते करते पूरा वीकेंड ही निकल गया. पर जैसे ही कान को फोन लगा, मुख से कुछ बिल्कुल ही बदलते हुए से सुरों में ये आवाज निकली, hello sir, all good, what's the matter? Oh yes, definitely, I'll get to it ASAP and you can expect it by the end of the day, EOD. और कान से फोन हटते ही, अबे यार आज का दिन तो गया. इनका काम करते करते अब तो रात जगे होंगे. छोड़ो यार, छोटू जरा एक चाय बना लाओ. या एक चाय नहीं, एक लोटा चाय बना लाओ. एक कप से काम नहीं बनेगा. इस काम को करने के लिए लोटे भर चाय की ताकत की जरूरत है. मेरे दोस्त ने क्रूरता भरी मुस्कुराहट के साथ मुझे देखा और बोला, बहन ये कौन लड़की थी और कहां छुपी हुई थी? यू हैव अ वर्क पर्सनालिटी ब्रो. एक मिनट, मैंने कहा ऐसा थोड़ी ना होता है यार, इंसान तो एक है यार. ये डबल स्टैंडर्ड्स का इल्जाम क्यों? मेरे इरादे नेक हैं. पर बात यहाँ खत्म नहीं हुई, क्योंकि दिमाग मेरा उलझ गया. अरे यार, हम एक इंसान है, ऐसा कैसे बोल दिया? And it wasn't even the fun sexuality वाला confusion जिसमें एक्सप्लोर करने का मौका मिलता है. ये तो पर्सनालिटी की मल्टीपल निकली. मैंने सुना था कि आइडेंटिटी क्राइसिस मूवी और नॉवेल्स की हीरो हीरोइंस को होता है, और हीरोइंस को भी नहीं होता, एक्चुअली सिर्फ हीरोज को होता है. सुना था बचपन में, एक पंथ दो काज, पर यहाँ तो एक ही इंसान के अंदर रोहित और राज. कहो ना प्यार वाले यार, आपको लग रहा होगा कि ये रोहित और राज कौन है. कहो ना प्यार वाले हैं यार. पर इस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में क्या कर रहे हैं, और क्या दोनों को एक दूसरे के बारे में पता है? काफी तफ्तीश करनी पड़ेगी. तफ्तीश करने पर पता चला कि रोहित करता बातचीत और राज को चाहिए कॉन्वर्सेशन. रोहित हर फन मौला तो राज करता मैनिपुलेशन. ज्यादा कॉन्सेप्ट हो गया क्या? लेट मी एक्सप्लेन. तो देखिए, रोहित वो दोस्त है जो ज्यादा लोड नहीं लेता. हिंदी में बकर करता है, गलियों में टहलता है, लोगों से मिलता है और महफिलों की शायरियों में खिलता है। वो आपका हमराज भी है, अजीज और खास भी है। थोड़ा अल्लड़ है पर घंटों किसी भी बकवास को सुन सकता है बिना जजमेंट। कांटों में कला और हवा में साज सुनाई पड़ते हैं इसे। शायद इसीलिए दोस्त इसको मस्त मौला कहते हैं। पर राज भैया, ये इंसान छका देने वाला है। कसम खुदा की, अंग्रेजों में घंटों ज्ञान दे देगा पर जरा रिलैक्स करने की विद्या इसको रास ना आती। जहाज से लेकर तीली की नोक तक एनालाइज करवा लो। एक बार एक दोस्त आ गया अपने ब्रेकअप पर रोने के लिए। भाई जी इतनी दिशाओं से एनालाइज कर दिया कि उसको भी एग्जिस्टेंशियल ही कर छोड़ा। उसने भी बोल दिया कि चाहे हम अकेले बैठकर रो ले पर इसके पास नहीं आएंगे। तो रोहित इज एक्सट्रीमली फन बट राज इज इंटेलेक्चुअली इंटिमिडेटिंग। तो रोहित खींचता दाएं, राज खींचता बाएं, इधर उधर करते करते भाई इंसान का फाइटर प्लेन बना छोड़ा है। मैंने सोचा आज दोनों को मिलवा ही देते हैं, और जैसा कि मेरी माता जी कहती हैं, या फिर तो चुपचाप दोस्ती कर लो या एक एक तलवार लो और भोग दो एक दूसरे के अंदर, आर या पार। इसी ललकार के साथ एंट्री होती है रोहित और राज की। नमस्ते 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 नमस्ते। नाचीज को रोहित कहते हैं। काफी खाली बैठी लग रहा है ये लड़की, बेकार में गोल में चर्चा रखवा दी इसने। आपकी तारीफ। Hello to you too. Opening with a joke, I see. Trying to avoid an awkward conversation, an awkward silence. अभी नहीं यार, बिल्कुल नहीं। हमें तो चुप्पी भी चलेगी बल्कि दौड़ेगी। बस एक कड़क चाय मिल जाए। तुम्हें चाहिए? Sure, I'll have one. I can't help but notice you can't stop pleasing people, can you? अरे तो क्या करें भाई बताओ, जो तुम करते हो। हाँ, हर बात को एनालाइज करे, भरे बाजार बाल की खाल उतार दें और सामने वाले को मुंह खोलने भर के लिए नीचा दिखा दें। Okay, that's unfair. I don't make anyone feel lesser than me. I just point out the nuance in a situation and don't let people get away with making blanket statements. तो देखो, हम वही समय बचाते हैं, ठीक है? तो ऐसा तो है नहीं कि कोई जो है हमसे कम जानता है और बिल्कुल हम पोथियां पढ़ के बैठे हुए हैं, तो उनकी ओपिनियन को गलत साबित करके हमें कोई पुरस्कार तो मिल नहीं जाएगा। तो अगर हम उनसे कुछ सीख सकते हैं तो सीख। Wow! Seems I do have something to learn from you. What the hell do you do with all that saved time? Perhaps waste more of it being unproductive? देखिए, हमारी जनरेशन को ना प्रोडक्टिविटी से ज्यादा प्रोडक्टिविटी के ख्याल से ऑब्सेशन है। पर वो सब छोड़िए, आपकी भाषा में रस तोड़ा है, लगता है सुनते जाओ। I see what this is. You're not flirting your way out of this conversation. गुस्से में भी कितने विनम्र हैं आप। Okay, you're going to now oversimplify everything. तो ओवर कॉम्प्लिकेट करने का जिम्मा तो आपने उठा ही लिया है ना। Do you think I like being like this? It doesn't let me sleep. I'm constantly listening, constantly observing, constantly making lists, keeping an account of all the time that you spend doing God knows what. मजे करना कहते हैं उसको, पता है ये शब्द? या इसको भी समझाने के लिए गूगल के समुद्र में गोते लगाने पड़ेंगे आपको हमेशा की तरह? As opposed to what you do, take impulsive decisions to experience things that I have to pay for later on. Tell me something, do you get paid to be stupid? देखिए, व्यंग्य आपका कोपिंग मैकेनिज्म है तो जाने दे रहे, पर अमाया आप ये क्यों नहीं देखती कि हमारे काम से आपका काम चलता है। हम मजे नहीं करेंगे, बगर नहीं काटेंगे, तो किसको अलग अलग पर्सपेक्टिव से एनालाइज करेंगे आप बताइए। Okay, first of all, Rohit, do not delude yourself into thinking that I need you. I'm very much capable of overthinking all on my own. You can't charm me like the others. I know what your game is. अच्छा चलिए, मत बहकिए, but मजा तो आपको भी आ रहा है ना? मजा तो आ रहा है ना? Okay, cut this bullshit. You need to stop being impulsive so that she can focus on one thing at a time and stop being distracted by stupid shit like rain, leaves, dogs. इज्जत से बात कर रहे हो और आपने कुत्तों की बेइज्जती कर दी। इल्जाम पर इल्जाम, हमने आपको दी चाय और आपने हम पर लगाया इल्जाम। Stop trying to avoid a discussion with your lack of logic and rather pedestrian poetry. अरे शांत गदाधारी भीम, शांत। अच्छा चलो, हम Don't you dare placate me with this logic of yours and look awesome in front of all these people. कौन लोग मिलॉर्ड, यहाँ पर तो सिर्फ हम दोनों हैं. Do you ever stop being so adorably charming? It's making it hard for me to beat you down with my words. अच्छा रुकिए, एक काम करते हैं, रुकिए, रिपब्लिक चैनल लगा देते हैं, आपको शायद बेहतर लगे. अब तो अर्नब भैया ही आपके प्रकोप को संभाल पाएंगे. What the actual hell? At this point, the alarm rings. I get up. मेरी नींद खुलती है और बगल में मेरी बहन सो रही है. मैंने उसको उठाया और बोला, यार बड़ा ही अजीब सपना देखा मैंने. बोली, अच्छा, रात में आप कुछ ऊल जलूल बकवास कर रही थी, कुछ तो पर्सनालिटी, रिलेशनशिप, रैंट करते करते आप बिस्तर पर गिर गए. सपना क्या था? मैंने सर खुजलाया, पर एब्स्ट्रैक्ट, कॉन्टेक्स्ट, आगा पीछा कुछ याद ना आया. पता नहीं यार, बड़ी ही बकवास सी बात पर दो लोग बहुत ही माता पिता टाइप वाली बहस कर रहे थे. Also, I think that there is some definite correlation between language and personality, huh? So I think I'm going to write a blog on it. But do you think I should write it in English? या हिंदी में लिख दूं? Press 1 for English. हिंदी के लिए 2 दबाएं. That's it from my side, guys. Thank you for being so patient. I don't know. I had a set and everything, but I had to just do it without a set and without any of my props that I usually use.
This is without set. I can't even imagine what you'd do with this proper set. I mean, I have seen you perform quite a number of times, but every time it's amazing that you hold a character for so long. So at least from the organizer's perspective, that was what we had in store. But if the audience could stay back, there were a couple of interesting questions which I thought I could pick up if the panelists are fine with it.
Yes.
Yeah. So one was, so this is a question by Kishore. Have they explored ways to impart soft skills like confidence building, creativity, and problem solving, etc., through storytelling, especially with adults? So in addition to that, if I could ask, maybe some, so obviously I think it's much difficult for imparting these soft skills in adults, but what are those small tips and bits which they can use in their daily life?
Anaga, you want to take this first?
Go ahead. I'll do it.
I think I can only remember with respect to what I have seen you guys do. With respect to hackathons, presentations, meetings, whenever you are pitching something, I feel, that is where the narrative bit comes pretty heavily, and you should always utilize that. Suppose when you're going with pitching a product or pitching a software, or you've made a project, as in why is your project or your take on something important? So a narrative means, in simple words, narrative means a sequence of events, right? So when we talk about the internet just didn't happen out of nowhere. It's not like, Tim Berners-Lee sat one day and suddenly made this Pandora's box and opened it with internet. It started with, a set of databases and then interconnected networks. And then before we knew it, it was with telephone wires. And those events happened one after the other, right? So instead of just going headfirst into your project that, okay, this is what I've done, actually spend a little bit of time researching about whatever you're doing. How is that a step forward in the direction of whatever has happened in that field up until now? Even if it is not a significant step forward, a narrative would actually, like a sequence of events in that particular discussion or conversation, would help set up the context for the person, make them interested to look at what you're going to present. That's something that I felt.
Yeah, I'll add to that. So I'll let Anaga speak.
Yeah, you finished, Tejas.
No. So I've been applying to B schools. Okay, so there the SOP usually means you have to connect everything in your life to show that you have a goal towards something, and throughout your life you have been working through it. So all those connecting the dots do play a very important role. And even through whatever projects we present, how how we narrate actually kind of creates an impact in the listener's mind. And I think a lot of times we, at least I believe, at least as Indians, we kind of undersell ourselves a lot of times. I mean, the Western world is way more confident with what little they sometimes do. So I just feel that we have to put more effort into uh, putting those narratives out there.
I think the Western world, I think, has this is an experience that I had with when I was working in Aganita, that uh, you should not be afraid of looking dumb, first of all, that you did not know something, or whatever your experience of the sequence of events was, that is not important. That is an assumption that we have, ki the sequence of events that we faced in our lives are not important enough to form a story. But that is where we are wrong. You don't need to be aware of your subconscious goal when you're going through it, right? But when you connect your actions together and really look at it, like a proper Gantt chart, if you look at the sequence of your actions that took place in a frame of time, a pattern will emerge, a subconscious goal will emerge. And it is not always important to keep thinking, oh, am I doing this with this goal, am I doing your subconscious takes care of it. Like for you, I've seen you engage in events, organizing events, interact with people, and bring people together to have meaningful conversations. So if I can look at you and think that, you can think yourself that also, right? If you sequence together the events in your life.
Yeah.
And also one other thing that what I feel is, especially the question was regarding confidence building, creativity, problem solving with storytelling for adults, right? We as Indians are very expressive people, right? Maybe we might not be open enough to express our emotions, but the way we talk and the way we say, just imagine, just go to when you're talking with your friend, how animated we are. But then we have this notion that, okay, once we are into this formal thing, we have to get into some,
Exactly.
like what she said, we are that Raj and whatever.
Yeah, it's like we ourselves create those silos. We don't.
Exactly. So once you're yourself, you have your confidence, you have your creativity, you have your problem solving, everything with you. So just narrate whatever you're doing, even in your formal environment, as a story, just as you are. The same thing when you probably you compare yourself with your whatever overseas counterparts in your project, they are themselves. Like what she said, they are not um, scared to project themselves as they are. But we as Indians, I think it might be our upbringing, or it might be the way we are as a society, we are forever insecure to put out ourselves there. So I think with these kind of storytelling, even if it is just going out there and telling a lion and the mouse story to 10 people, it's going to boost your energy or your confidence, because you're just going to be yourself. And this is what we have to do in our real life, just be ourselves and not have that facade over us.
And in fact, I feel, when you're telling your story, as in, if you're applying to a B school, and I'm just taking an example because you mentioned an example. So if you're, in a B school, people always think that, people want to hear a success story. That's not true.
Failures is what
Either you're successful or you have a good story. Those are the two options. Okay. So if you're successful all the time, it's not a great story, right? If you have, like, even when we write a research paper, even in your journals, you have reports of failures as well, right? So just like Anaga said, that just tell your life as it is, as a sequence of events, as they influenced you when you're writing something like that, depending on the context, of course.
Yeah. So in the interest of time, just one small question. Okay, so we'll just wrap it up very quickly. So the second question was by Sandeep Bhaskar. So he asked, can you share an experience or an anecdote of getting creative with storytelling, but it wasn't working with the audience? So how as a performing artist do you tackle that spontaneously?
he says demanding kids. Oh, this happens all the time, you know. When you most of the stories, when if you're narrating stories which they already know, then you have kids jumping everywhere saying, I know the story, I know the story, I know the story, kind of a thing. Or there'll be somebody who actually blurts out the ending. It's just not with the kids, even with the adults, you know, they just say, oh, this is what happened in the end, and put your story is gone, and what do you do? So then there are times when this has happened to me, and I just look at the child or the adult and just say, oh, you think that is what is the ending? Wait and watch. And I continue to tell the same ending, but that guy would have shut up and it will be the same ending. I said, you were right, but I just wanted you to listen to it, you know. So it just that with experience you kind of get this, when you, and the tricks that you use with the kids, the same work with adults. You don't have to think differently with adults or kids, it's the same. So like how I said, it's just the kids and the kids at heart, you know. There are no adults, we are all kids at heart, so it's just the facade that we have, so it just works.
I think I have experienced something very different, because when I perform for adults, and this happen, comedy is brutal. Okay, it's not as great as storytelling. You know, people don't have to sit and listen; they'll heckle the heck out of you. But I'll answer with respect to both contexts. Like Anaga said, for children it works. Sometimes, you know, if the person has blurted out the ending, I just make up another ending. You know, it's not that difficult for me. I make up another ending.
Yeah, even I do that.
Yeah, as in, you know, as in you're a storyteller, right? You can make up another ending, and that's fine also. Or with adults this works if your material is not working. Okay, the age group, or this happened with me. Like I was talking about how women communicate with each other. That was a set I had, and in the audience I had three women, uh, the daughter, the mother, and the grandmother, all like three generations. Okay, and they were looking at me like with eye daggers. Okay, ki, are you really, it is a joke. Okay, like I am a woman, I can make fun of women, right? Because I am a woman. So they're like, women don't interact like that, what are you all about? And then, you know, I kind of just changed tack, and I could see that, you know, it was just going down. So I started interacting with them. You know, you can always do crowd work, and this works with kids also. Like, you know, you can just like start interacting with them. Everybody wants to be engaged at the end of the day.
And I think this is the same technique we use even in the meetings. No, anybody is trying to act over smart or is sleeping, you just pull them and then you make them talk, and the whole thing is sorted.
Yeah.
Off the record answers, by the way.
So I think we've crossed the time, and thank you to both of you and the audience who joined us today. Have a happy weekend. So thank you very much once again.
Thank you all so much, and thank you.
Thank you.